about some Brexit. I've got no choice. You see, it was discovered that proroguing Parliament was illegal. We'd already spoke about that. Okay. Now, the politicians were desperate to get back to work. That's what they said. We need to get back to work to sort this mess out, crack on. So they all got back into Parliament and have done nothing for 2 days apart from talk shit. Quite literally, they're just having the most pathetic, embarrassing arguments in the Houses of Parliament. Boris Johnson called it a surrender deal, and everyone's landed on him for that, saying his language is going to encourage violence. This coming from the other side, the Remainers, who have suggested lynching, called you Nazis, racists, morons. But no, he says humbug and surrender. It's all going to kick off. I don't think people realise, the Remainers that think Twitter is somehow a reflection of the United Kingdom, that group of FBPE fucking lunatics, they think that's representative. I don't think they realise that this kind of behaviour and the online gloating and these people in Parliament who do not represent us, we do not have a representational democracy. Otherwise, more of them would be bound to support Brexit because their constituencies voted leave. They're going to make Boris Johnson more popular. That's all they're going to do. You know, it's so tempting to think of him as an absolute moron, but everyone said that about Trump, but he seems to play it very, very well. And Boris Johnson's doing a very similar sort of tactic. Make them rant, make them scream, make them go insane. They'll all go towards him. Now, people are saying, and I've just seen a joke in chat about it, that, you know, it's to do with the North. People in the North voted Brexit. No one down South did. 40% of the vote in London was Leave. 40%, not the City of London. That doesn't count. That's a different country. But 40% was Leave. Someone told me on Twitter the other day that 80% of Labour voters voted Remain. They didn't. They really, really didn't. We're going to wind up at some point with a general election, and then most likely with a coalition of the Tories and the Brexit Party. Because people will vote on one issue, which is Brexit. They will vote on one issue, forgetting the pain, misery and heartache that the Tories often bring with them. Never mind that. I want my Brexit. And these other people are going to cancel it. They're going to take it away. But, as ever, the Labour are very annoyed. Generally annoyed. You know, they got halfway through their conference, a celebration of anti-Semitism, as it turns out. And they've come back and they're annoyed at Boris Johnson and his language. For example, Diane Abbott, the deep thinker of the Labour Party, has insisted that Boris Johnson's shocking performance in the Commons has put off MPs from offering cross-party support to a Brexit deal. Oh no! No cross-party support for that. There's no deal. There is no deal. Apparently she's referring to Labour MPs who were contemplating backing the Prime Minister should he eventually return a deal next month. So what she's saying is, we didn't like the rude things he said to us, so fuck you and fuck your Brexit. They're playing parliamentary politics. They're playing party politics. Anyone out there who still thinks these people give a shit about what you want, desire, need, or anything else, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. They do not care. They're all screaming because Mr. Johnson was condemned for telling MPs they should honour the memory of Joe Cox, a politician who was brutally and needlessly and tragically murdered by, he was pretty much far right, but he was completely mental as well. But he didn't bring her up. Somebody else did, saying your language is what leads to things like Joe Cox. I mean, come on. You can't keep dragging this woman's memory out as a political point-scoring tool. It's not fucking right. He was repeatedly asked to tone down his inflammatory language, but he's right. It is a surrender to take no deal off the table, takes away the only bargaining tool we've got to try and get any kind of deal. Theresa May's deal that everyone wants brought back, that wasn't a deal. That was a surrender. That was placing ourselves in an even worse position than we're in the EU. It's absolutely fucking miserable what's going on. Our parliament is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And to cap it all, they've now told the Tories that they're not allowed to have a Tory party conference because that would require a recess. Now, Labour could have part of theirs, but they were in a rush to get on with the important work of just trying to belittle the Prime Minister and, do whatever they want to do. They've certainly not done any work. Not that any of those people would know a day's work if it bit them on the arse anyway. But now the Tories aren't allowed to take a break to have their conference. Now, the thing is, what's especially spiteful and interesting about this, regardless of how you feel about the Tories or how I feel about the Tories, party conferences aren't just, we're going to talk to the people. They're an important part of maintaining parties, sponsorships, funding. It all ties in. The grassroots guys, they have votes on politics within their party. It's part of the system. So, as poor as the system might be, it's the system we've got. And they're basically what they're doing. The politicians in Parliament now is their only concern is to beat Boris Johnson with a stick. Understandable. I get it. But you know what? I don't get it when your fucking job is to run the country for our benefit. Not for your own ego. Not for your own satisfaction. This is party before country. This is ideology before country. This is everything before country. No matter how you voted, I'm sick and tired of hearing all the bullshit about lies and this assumption that everyone voted Leave is somehow less educated than those who remain because they're the clever ones. You narcissistic pricks, you're as thick as everybody else. We should have a representational democracy. Don't tell me, it was an advisory referendum. Blah, 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 blah. The country was told, you vote, we act. If you vote leave, we get a deal, or we leave with no deal, but we leave. It was made perfectly crystal clear. Crystal clear. But it's never enough. And, you got people like Sadiq Khan that I mentioned the other day on Tuesday's broadcast who said, I'm going to push for a people's vote and campaign to cancel Brexit. He pretty much told you there, yeah, we'll let you have a vote, but we don't really give a shit what you vote for. We don't care. This is what we want. Now, another argument on Brexit that does need clearing up is everyone says, well, all these disaster capitalists stand to make money. Rees-Mogg will make money if a no deal's bad. I get it. It's awful, but that's what these people are. But then you've got to look at Michael Heseltine, one of the richest men in Britain, Lord Michael Heseltine, part of a Tory government that sowed the seeds for all the problems we've had since, sold off all our national industries, everything. One of the richest men in Britain still gets somewhere in the region of £100,000 a year from the EU in subsidies. I wonder why he wants to stay in the EU. I can't think. I just don't know. So yeah, the important stuff is that they've come back to work. They're working really hard in... Well, I don't even know what I've just knocked over there. That sounded like something I shouldn't have knocked over. They've got on with the important things like cancelling the Tory party conference, shouting at Boris Johnson, some of them shouting very loudly. One chap there was so red in their face I thought he would poo. Some people with marvellous voices shouting and then lots of funny noises. Basically, they're a fucking embarrassment. They're an embarrassment. Not one of them is fit for purpose in that house. We should sack the lot of them and start again. Or just raise Oliver Cromwell from the dead to dissolve that corrupt cesspit that we call the Houses of Parliament. It's disgraceful. How have you felt about the last couple of days back in Parliament, Graham? Are you happy?
Yeah, you basically covered it. And actually, when you remember where I went live just after it happened, I was like, yeah, the first thing I was talking about was the fact that the recess isn't going to happen. And I suspect that obviously Labour are trying to play it to get an extension, because an extension kills the Conservatives. But either way, an election is going to happen. And I think fucking over their conference is going to really, really benefit the Conservatives in the long run, because it just seems so petty and so obviously playing party politics. And people don't realize, everyone on Twitter and the papers and that, they don't. There's a lot of people out there, a hell of a lot of people that are going, "Go on, Boris," and
Oh
everyone's
yeah.
going, "Oh, he's just creating this narrative. He's creating this like the people versus Parliament, and he's on the side of the people." They're all saying this like they're so fucking clever, but it's like, yeah, but that's also what is happening as well. You know, you can do a fucking hashtag about it, but it's still happening. Ultimately, you know, leavers, remainers, they just want to fucking leave. Have you seen this thing about John Major as well? He's come out saying that there's a way around the surrender bill. It's really good. He said he could use the Privy Council to just bypass it, basically. And it's such a weird thing because um, John Major is obviously pro-Europe, wants to stay in, but he's also saying, I hope they don't go through the Privy Council because that could sidestep it. And I'm like, what? What the fuck? Are you just like, is he saying this because he knows that's what's going to happen? Or is he like, because no one was talking about it before this. Everyone's going, it's the law now, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see if he, I mean, it's like you said with Trump, isn't it? You know, Trump's constantly carrying that flaming sword and it just fucking destroys everything. But there's always a good chance that he'll burn himself. And I think Boris is doing that. If he did take the Privy Council route and he did go round the surrender bill and leave on the 31st, regardless of that bill, there's going to be a lot of people that love him and a lot of people that hate him. A lot. On both sides, and for me, I'm excited by it. Very excited.
Well, you know, to be honest, it's for people that do things that we do like this. You couldn't have a better time right now with what's going on in the States, which I fancy talking about on Tuesday when a little more's come out. Still, you know, with the Trump Ukraine business.
Oh yeah.
I want to see a little more that shakes loose about that. Otherwise, we're just going to be repeating everybody else at this point. But I'd like to see what shakes loose because there seems to just. There's too much hyperbole and
yeah. At the moment, the
unproven stuff around me, and people screaming for impeachment.
It's nonsense at the moment. It could be eventually, but at the moment, it's all empty and it's all misquotations and all the rest of it.
I want to say one thing that is interesting though is that